Picture this. You're driving home, tired, thinking about dinner, when a car swerves across 2 lanes and cuts right in front of you. Your instant reaction? What a selfish idiot. But hold on to that flash of certainty, because 20 minutes later, you're going to dart across traffic to catch a missed exit, and you won't call yourself an idiot at all. You performed the exact same behavior, but your brain generated 2 completely different explanations. When they do it, you blame their character. It's who they are. When you do it, you blame the situation. You were about to miss your turn. Anyone would have done the same. Psychologists call this double standard the fundamental attribution error. Strip away the academic jargon, and it describes a specific split in how we judge motives. We explain our own behavior through circumstances, while explaining others' behavior through their personality. This bias functions as a background wiring quirk, acting as a default setting in how the human mind reads other humans. It causes us to be unconsciously unfair to almost everyone we meet without ever noticing we were doing it. To see how stubbornly our brains cling to this bias, you have to look at a strange little experiment built by psychologists Edward Jones and Victor Harris in 1967. The researchers handed participants short essays written by students. Some of these essays praised Fidel Castro, while others attacked him. The readers were then given a simple task: judge how the writer really felt about Castro. Then Jones and Harris introduced a crucial twist. They told the readers that the writers had absolutely no choice in their stance. A coin toss decided it. The students were simply assigned to argue for or against Castro as a debate exercise. Logically, knowing someone was forced to argue a position tells you nothing about their beliefs. Yet readers completely ignored the coin toss, assuming whoever wrote the pro-Castro essay was, deep down, a genuine Castro sympathizer. Even with the situational context spelled out in black and white, the human brain refuses to let it go. We stubbornly insist that a behavior reveals exactly who a person is. This timeline is the 3-step sequence your mind runs after watching an act. First, notice the behavior. Second, instantly assign a trait. These steps are automatic and cost 0 effort. Third comes considering the situation, where fairness lives, but it requires significant mental energy. Psychologist Daniel Gilbert and his colleagues wanted to test what happens to this sequence under pressure, launching a series of studies in 1988 on a state called cognitive busyness. They found that when people are juggling another task, exhausted, or simply distracted, that slow, energy-intensive third step simply fails to fire. The mind locks on to the personality judgment and stays there. When the mind is too drained to process context, the correction step is the first thing to break. This means our snap conclusions about a person's character are most likely to stick at the exact moment we have the least mental room to be fair. We readily grant ourselves the context we deny everyone else because of a spatial reality psychologists call the actor-observer split. Think about your physical vantage point as the actor. When you miss a deadline, you don't see your own face. You see the world in front of you. The lack of hours, the confusing brief, the external pressures pressing in from every side. But when you observe a coworker missing that exact same deadline, their invisible pressures vanish from your perspective. You can't see their inbox. The only thing filling your visual field is the person themselves. We assume character is the cause because the person is the only thing we see. We aren't operating a deliberate double standard. We are quite literally judging from 2 fundamentally different camera angles. Bring this bias home into a romantic partnership, and it becomes a slow poison. Your partner forgets something important, and your mind files it as a character flaw. They don't care. You forget something important, and you excuse it as the result of a brutal week. Over time, you build 2 entirely different people in your head out of nearly identical behavior. Because this reaction feels so automatic, it is easy to assume it is an inescapable part of human nature. But in the 1980s, psychologist Joan Miller ran a cross-cultural study that proved it isn't. Miller found that as children mature in the United States, an individualistic society, they learn to lean increasingly heavily on personality to explain behavior. But as children grow up in India, a culture that emphasizes the group, they drift the opposite way. They learn to increasingly rely on the situation, obligations, and relational context to explain behavior. This cross-cultural variation suggests the error operates as a deep, invisible habit, rather than a fixed feature of the brain's hardware. Because it is a habit, you can consciously retrain it. You can force your brain to manually execute that skipped third step of the judgment process. The next time you feel a harsh verdict forming, stop and ask yourself one precise question. What situation could put a basically decent person into this exact behavior? Research shows that people who consistently imagine situational context build a more complex picture of human action. They tend to be less prejudiced and far less likely to punish those around them. Forcing yourself to see the unseen pressure makes you slower to anger and far more accurate in how you judge others. If this changed how you look at the people around you, take a second to subscribe and like the video, and drop a comment below. Tell me about a time you completely misjudged someone, then found out the real situation. I read them, and they often plant the seed for the next video. Keep asking the better question, and I'll see you in the next one.